Thanks for joining, everybody. Just one more minute to allow people who want to join today to join. Bob, let's just flip over to the second slide here just to give people a summary of what we are going to be talking about today so they can just ensure that they have come to the right place for this block. This session is called Forms Rule, all things forms and form rules. So we're going to be covering just some basics of what forms are used for on the QuickBase platform and a couple different tips and tricks on how to optimize your current forms. Or maybe you just want to follow along here with a QuickBase expert like Mr. Sturgeon, who's joined us today. Any of those reasons, you've come to the right place. All right, Bob, what do you say we kick things off?
Let's do it.
Great, sounds good. Let's go over to the next slide. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Neil Beschley. I am a customer success manager here at QuickBase. I've been with the company, actually this week I'm celebrating my 3rd year anniversary with QuickBase. I started on our care support team, taking inbound support tickets for just nearly 2 years at QuickBase. So I got very familiar with the platform and I got to meet a lot of our different customers. And today in customer success, I get to continue working with a lot of those customers. I absolutely love the platform, and what excites me about my job is how much I learn every day from customers just like yourselves. Bob Sturgeon has joined me today as well, and I'll give him a few minutes here to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Sturgeon. I have been with QuickBase just over 1 year now. I'm an implementation consultant. I work on our Quick Start programs, and I help builders get their apps up to speed. A fun fact, I'm wearing my I Love QuickBase t-shirt that I got at Empower about 5 years ago when I was a customer. I've been a customer for about 20 years. I've taken QuickBase and installed it, if they didn't already have it, at 4 or 5 different jobs that I've had in the past. So I absolutely love the product, and I absolutely love the company and the values and the people I get to work with and our customers. So I'm just very happy to be here.
Great. Thanks, Bob. We do have an app on the Exchange. It's going to be the same app that Bob is going to be doing some of the live demonstrations with. To get to the Exchange, if you've never downloaded before, visit My Apps page. On the right-hand side, you'll see Explore Sample Apps. There in the search bar, if you just typed in Forms Rule, it should narrow down to one that's been uploaded this week. And like I said, this is going to be the app that Bob is going to be demonstrating a couple cool tips and tricks and with our forms as we go along here. Let's just cover the agenda here. Obviously, we have a limited amount of time. We're going to try to cover as much as we can. Forms are fully customizable, as you will learn throughout this session. We want to get as much covered as possible, but we recognize we might not get to everything. This session is going to be recorded and available for your viewing later on the university website. But today we're going to try to cover what makes up a form, the various aspects of customizing a form, so form elements, form properties, dynamic form rules. At the end, we're going to have a live questions and answers session where we will try to do our best to answer anything that comes up along the way. So if you have any technical questions, please submit those in the Q&A option on this Zoom. Our moderators are going to be pulling together most of the frequently asked questions, and then Bob and I will address those at the end of this session. If you have any technical questions on your own personal computer today, or you just want to say hi, tell us where you're from, feel free to drop that in the chat function of the Zoom, and our friendly moderators will say hi back.
That's pretty cool to see where everybody's from. Thanks for posting that. I'm in the Bay Area, by the way, but I've got San Diego Hotel Del Coronado behind me. I wish we were there.
Great. All right, let's just dive right into things here. So what is a form? Forms are a user-friendly way to display or edit an individual record. It's a way to add something like a new project, a new task, or any other type of record you may have in your tables in QuickBase. And forms are fully customizable. You'll see here we have this cumbersome spreadsheet displayed, and each one of these rows would would represent a record in QuickBase. And as you can see, I'm squinting my eyes at this, just trying to decipher a record. You see here an example of a QuickBase form. The name of the game here is making it more digestible and easier to use and consume information. So when you go about customizing a form, you should always be asking yourself how to make this as easy as possible for the end user themselves that you're going to be inviting to your apps. So why are forms important? Form layouts can drastically change how end users adopt QuickBase into their workflow. When you work with people at QuickBase, you will hear us talk about adoption a lot. Just because you're proud of your app doesn't mean people in your organization are going to want to use it. So customizing forms with the end user in mind can definitely alleviate that and help people really love and adopt your QuickBase application. They also make data entry into the system easier. Finding information on a record can be easy based on how you customize and think about your form. And when you have more than one form on a table, which we'll demonstrate for you today, you can provide specific users with only the information they want or need to perform their job or tasks. So to view forms on a table, first slide here on the left, you'll see the gear symbol on any table that you're working on in QuickBase. Clicking in there, the central column towards the bottom, you will see forms. You can click into forms itself and view what forms you currently have created for the table, and then you'll see that new button there to create new forms. Once you have more than one form configured for a table, you'll see that you'll have more options for how different roles use these forms. That's a really powerful aspect of QuickBase. You can really enhance and customize the end user experience by assigning customized forms per role. And even in here, you can also further enhance that with different versions of a form for a role itself, like view, edit, add, as well as grid edit and a particular form for your mobile experience. Here you see your layout options. On the left is the end user view. This is what QuickBase looks like to anyone who's invited to an app. When you go about customizing forms in QuickBase, you're going to be using this customized form screen. And this is what we're really going to kind of dive into today with the various ways you go about customizing your forms. So with that, I'd like to invite Bob we're going to actually go over what form elements are. So the first aspect here is form elements. With the elements tab itself, you're able to specify which fields appear in your form and where. You can select only the fields you want to display on a particular form and set their order here. You also can create formatting elements such as tabs, section headings, and horizontal rules. And you can embed reports from related tables. So say you want to display a project record, you might want to be able to see the tasks that are related to that particular project. So you can embed that table of related tasks directly on that project form. And even furthermore, you can set parameters for what detail records to display. For example, only open tasks related to that project. So with that, Bob, a few things here that we're going to cover. Some add buttons to redirect to other forms on the same record. Bob's going to show us a cool customized status banner. And like we said at the beginning of the Zoom here, you are able to try this out along with us. We do recognize that we may be talking a little fast for you to follow along the entire time, which is why this is going to be recorded. But you can download the Forms Rule app off of the Exchange if you'd like to play around with us as we're talking about this today. So with that, Bob, do you want to dive in and review some of our fancy form elements?
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the elements. In this app, I'll open up the app that you all can find on the App Exchange. And I'm going to go through some concepts here. Let's start out with, let's go to a customer. And like I say, we've got all these, and there again, this is almost like a spreadsheet. It's hard to enter information and read information. So if we actually dive into a customer form, now when you set up a table, QuickBase automatically creates this form for you. It takes all the fields that you entered and it aligns them one after the other in this format, all the way down the bottom, right? Now I've added in some other components here that I'll talk about in just a second. But let's just go take a look at customize this form. Real quick, we can see all the different elements. These are all the fields that we've created that are on our form. Now, like Neil pointed out, there are some other elements for display purposes. Like I added a section in here for my admin. This is where I like to hide other fields that regular users don't need to see. And later on, I'm going to show you how to hide that admin section. To move things around, like if I wanted first name, you can, down here at the bottom, you've got some controls. You can move fields up, down, you can insert. When I insert, that's where I can go to choose. I can add text to a form. I can add my section heading and tabs. I'll show you in just a little bit. So you can see, and then I'm going to exit. So this is okay, but as you add many components to this, I think we can make this a lot better. So another thing I've done is I've added into this in my admin section. I've actually created other forms. This is just our basic form, and I've called this is a piece of text that I've inserted into here. Then I've got other buttons. These are formula URL buttons that'll take me to the other form. So in customers, I've got a second form and its ID is 10, and then I've got a third form. So let's go take a look at the second form, which that's a little more pleasing, isn't it? You notice we've moved the field labels from the left to the top, and the alignment's just a lot better. You see, instead of all the fields down in a row, we can put them side by side. Let's take a look at how we did that. Now I can go up here to customize this form in the upper right, but instead, I'm going to take a shortcut. And if I wanted to go to a particular space on here, like customer address, I can right click on a field label. Now, right clicking within the field itself sometimes won't work. So I usually do it on the label that's around it. I right click there and I go down to the fourth option, edit the properties of this form element. And you can go straight there. Not only that, that'll take you directly to that form element. So again, you can go to customize this form, but you may have to scroll down if you've got a lot of elements. This takes you right in here. While we're in here on customer address, I want to point out something else. You notice I've hidden the map. So if I unhide the map and save it and go back, you'll see that the map shows. The map can be cool, but in some cases you want to use it. In other cases, you don't need it. That's an easy way to hide it. Some other things I've done, there again, I'm going to go back in the quick way. And by the way, I'm going to go very fast. This is recorded, so you can come back here and find some of these and follow along on your own when you download the app. To put things on the same row, you notice first name and then last name has same row checked. Full name behind it it's unchecked. So that starts out on a new row. So on a new row, we've got full name, email, phone number, and status. Let's go take a look. Full name, email, phone number, and status. Wait, we had other fields before that, didn't we? Didn't we have like first name, last name? Why aren't they showing? We don't need all those to show all the time. I want to show you something. When I edit this form, I've got first name, last name. Uh-oh, we kind of got to head to a different form. When I cancel this, oops, let me go back to my second form. There we go. So I've got the full name, and this full name here is actually a formula field. I'm going to show it to you real quick. I'm going to go to right click, go to field properties, and you'll see that that is a formula field, first and last name. Because when we collect customer information, we want their first and last name, but it's just easier to show the full name, right? So let's go to customize this form again. And again, same form, and it's got first name and last name. Why aren't we seeing those? Because we only need to see the first name individually when we're editing or adding. First name, last name, edit or add, and those two will be side by side. When we are just looking at it in view mode, that's when we see the full name. We don't need to see the full name when we're editing, right? Because we're taking care of those components individually. So again, let's go back. This is our view mode, and I'm going to do a little trick up here in the URL. See where this action equals DR, that's display record. I change that to E to ER. It's a little inside trick. Change that to ER, that's edit record. I'm on that same form. And now you see I've got first name and last name because I can change this. So if Heidi changes her last name, I don't know, let's make it easy. When I save and close this and end up back on that second form, now I've got Heidi's full name there, right? Let's go to, okay, so this form looks better. Let's go to one that looks, well, one moment, please. Back to that one, one other thing I want to point out, we've got all these different sections, and you can have sections go on forever and ever. You can have long forms. I've seen a job I had prior to this where we use QuickBase, obviously. I had a form that I think we said was about 70 feet long if it, if it were printed out. So one thing I want to show here is where we've got, there's one example where this form just keeps going and going and going and going, right? In my admin section, I've got another form, and I've moved some things around, and I've created sections to better organize things. But I've got even a better example of this in my third form, and that's tabs. You can add tabs instead of a section. You've got a choice. You can actually have sections within tabs as well. Like my admin section is within these tabs, is within this first tab. But if I go to customers, now I've got my customer data there. You see what I've done here too. So as you know, with a child table, we can embed, when you create a child relationship, it actually embeds a customer table. I've also added that from the same customer, same child table, I can add a graph. You can add any table from within there, or any report that you create. Let's take a look real quick at how you do that. So I can right click. This is just another form element. In fact, let me go out to customize this form and I'll show you. I'll go down to in the customers tab. So that could be a section, but I've created a tab. In there, I've got a customer, it's called a report link. And this displays a report that's embedded for sales reps. And you see I've got the one right next to it because I've got it checked. That one is my monthly sales chart. I can put any report you can create, you can display it on the form. Now let's say in the customers, if I wanted to remove a column from there, this is the embedded for sales reps report. I could go out to my reports in the customers table. I could find that report. I could pull it up and customize it. Easy enough. It's even easier. I can do it right from here, right from my forms. I can change the settings on this one. It'll pull this up. I'm just going to remove the date from that report. I can save it, get rid of my pop-up, save this, back into my customer tab. There you go, my date's gone. Alternatively, you can remove it this way too, but it won't save. If I go out to another form and come back to this one, for instance, that page will reload. And again, I haven't saved that report. So again, you'll need to go out to your, there it is, it came back. So you'll need to go out, and the easiest way to do it is to go right to the form element and customize that way. One other thing I want to look at here is text fields. Back to I haven't looked at text fields yet. Down in my admin section, there again, I've got these buttons that can take us to other forms. And a real use case for this, I'm just showing different forms and different things you can do. But a real world use case is you may want a short form for data entry people or something like that. Finance people, you may want a completely different form that's got more tabs and so forth. One thing I want to do here as well is I want to change this from an admin section that's hidden, and I want to change this to an admin tab actually. So I can get there pretty quickly. Again, I can go to customize this form. But again, to get there quickly into that section, I'm going to go to the form element and go up to my admin and see that's a section heading. Let's make that a tab. And I can also set the tab color because that's a little different. I want it to stand out. I want my tab actually, admin's going to be more red for me. So when I save that, oops, I'm going to move that out to the end. Let me change that. So to do that, I go back into my sections, or my elements, sorry. And I want to highlight that whole admin portion, and I want to move it. So I go down here to the bottom. I just move it down.
Just to highlight here what Bob's doing, he's making his life easier as an admin or a builder of an app. So this is something that's just going to be for him or other builders when they're customizing this form or just looking at a form. You can leverage forms for yourself, not just for end users, but for yourself as an app manager or builder.
Great, thank you. And then a couple chapters down in about 15-20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to hide this because we don't want everybody to see the admin. This is just for us as builders. These are special things that different fields that we need access to, okay? And then finally on elements, I've got one more really cool bonus piece. Got a couple. Let me go back to customers for just a second. There was one I wanted to show there. And on our third form, this is something that one of my fellow implementation consultants shared with me that a customer shared with them. And that is, this is kind of a neat element to have. This is a formula field. And what this does, this banner changes based on our status here. So when I edit this, and there again, it's going to take me to a different form. So I'm going to trick it and go edit from there. Oops. There we go. So now when I change the status here, this is really neat what this does. As the status progresses from new, see how that bar changes to working, to follow up. And then look here what happens at the end if someone's unqualified. It takes qualified off, turns it to red, so it stands out. It's totally apparent there, or I can make it qualified. There again, this is just we'll go to the field properties, and this is built into the app that you can download. So you can go in, check out field properties. You'll need to change, if you adopt this, you'll need to change the fields possibly to whatever your fields are. So that's a really neat one that I like. And then finally on elements, not finally, sorry, let's go back to sales reps. I got two more things. I get so excited. I love QuickBase. Let's go to sales reps, number 2. They've got a couple text fields in here. And that's what I want to show. I haven't really shown those yet. And I've hidden them down in my admin section. Couple examples of text displays here. This one, office info. This is a neat one I got from one of my colleagues just a few days ago, and it may actually not be in your sample. If you need this, we'll get it out to you. But so I've got this as a text element. Oops, this office is info, as well as this is just very plain text. And then I've done a really fancy one. This is a text element that's actually an HTML button, and we can even click through on this to open up. And I've got that, it's just a link to QuickBase. So you can put different things in there. Let's take a look at those real quick. Go to Customize, and look at these text elements. This is the one that was the office info. So you can see it's a span style. So there again, you choose text section or tab. This is text. And we put some HTML into this. My other text button down here that just IDs the form, it's just simple black and white text. There's no HTML. This one I've gotten fancy with it. It is limited HTML, but by using the span tag, you can put a lot more HTML elements in there, like coloring and backgrounds and font size and all that again. So again, this one's just display block border. It says office info. There's no click through or anything like that. And that one is this piece right here. Just a kind of made our own little section or something, right? Real quick, let me go out to the one that's a button in our admin section. And this one actually has href, so you can actually click through. If you click on this button, it'll actually go through to quickbase.com, and the button displays company website. Okay, so those are the text elements. One last thing I want to show you, and this is so cool. I love this one. So our tables here, we've got sales reps and all of our customers, right? We've got all of those rolling up. I created a table here called stats, and every sales rep and every customer is related to the stats table. So this just rolls up. It's a summary. We've got summary fields. How many sales reps do we have? How much purchase potential? Da, da, da. And I've even got a text summary showing our top 5 sales reps. All right, so this is static data. It's not too exciting. But if I click through to this, what I've done here is created a form. And each of these elements on the form are simply rich text formula fields. I'm going to go into this one. There you go. It's just some text that I've copied out from another customer. And this says basically, let's go look at the number of sales reps and put a lot of fancy HTML around it. So we've got 32 sales reps. We can look at it in a boring text box, or we can do it up nicely on this. Now you notice I've also got a URL up here. I can copy this URL. And what I've done is taken that form, because we only have one of those forms, and I've actually displayed it on our dashboard. How cool is that? You've got one record. You can roll up all of your summaries, your statistics, create. There's a lot more you can do with this on this form. And this form element, by the way, this is outside of forms. This is dashboards, but what this is actually is a web page. And that web page is our URL, and this is our form, and it's saying, show us the one form that we've got, record ID 1, and by putting an IFB equals 0 at the end of it, that takes off all the border, all the QuickBase header and stuff around it. So that's one of my favorite things, and I've got to give credit to my buddy Pato over at Melissa and Doug. If you guys have kids, you know Melissa and Doug's toys. So they use us for their global supply chain, shipping, and so forth. And it's a really neat feature that I've copied for him. So thank you. I think I've exhausted it on elements. So let's go back to.
Let's move on to form properties, Bob. And certainly we understand that this might feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose, which is why it's recorded. If you haven't gotten a chance to yet, I definitely recommend downloading this app from the Exchange when you get a chance to, because some of those more advanced tips and tricks Bob was showing off for you today, you can copy them right out of there and just modify them to fit your app. So things like that, that cool status bar that dynamically changed, or these kind of cool radio buttons that we were showing off. You know, you can kind of borrow some inspiration from some stuff on the Exchange, like the one that we've shared out for you this week. So form properties, that is the second tab when you are in the customize this form view. And mostly these are checkbox fields. These enhance or control a form's appearance. So checking these off, we're gonna include them on the form, or unchecking them will not. And this really is a a matter of preference, or it may be what is relevant to a particular end user using a particular form. For example, the built-in fields of QuickBase, and by built-in we mean like created by, date modified, record owner. Those might not mean anything to a particular end user, like an entry level, like a data entry person. So you can just remove them from the form, and that's where you would do that here. And we'll demonstrate, we'll walk through these just now and show you what that looks like in a kind of a compare and contrast way from the form to this properties tab view. So let's go ahead, and again, if you guys go to Explore Sample Apps and just type in Forms Rule, you should be able to locate this app. It was posted just on Monday this week. So go ahead and follow along if you like, or just save this this app for later use. And Bob, let's just dive in and take a look at these properties on the form itself.
Cool. Talk about drinking through the fire hose. I'm trying to read chat and Q&A at the same time. So great questions coming up. I'm going to try to hit some of those, and our moderators will take care of the others. So properties, let's go take a look at properties. For this one, I'm on customer number 3. My admin section, I can see I'm on the 3rd form, which is ID number 11, by the way. If you look up in your URL, if you're on any other form besides the main form that was created when you created the table, look up here in your URL. After the question mark, you've got your actions, and this is display record. DR is display record, ER is edit record. DFID is your form ID, and we're on form number 11. So I'm on the 3rd form that I've created. For my own sanity, I put that I told myself it's number 11, because when you build these buttons, you'll need to say which form to go to. Like this one, if I go to the 2nd form, you'll see it's ID number 10. All right, so I'm going to go back to the 3rd form. Now, on properties, one of the things, I've created sections in here for formatting and for grouping and to move things around. I've created sections, not named sections. My only named section is admin. These other sections are just for formatting purposes, and I don't like these horizontal lines all the way through. They're distracting to me. So I'm going to customize this form, and I'm going to go back into properties, show horizontal lines between sections. I'm going to uncheck that. Let's save it. And then voila, those are gone. It's nice, it's cleaner for me. Let's go back and take a look at the other properties. So we've unchecked that one. Hey, we can rename this, main form, copy. I'm gonna call this customers deluxe form, something like that. All right, and when I save it, that'll save with it. Show built-in fields. This is checked by default. Let's take a look at what that is. By default, every form has at the bottom our built-in fields. When you create a table, QuickBase gives you 5 fields automatically. The time and date created, who created it, who last updated it, when it was last modified, and the record ID. Shows everything on here except the record ID. You may not want people to see this on some forms. You may want to really simplify your form. Forms with a lot of data that you're in a lot, especially when you're building, it's kind of nice to be down here and know who actually created this. Was it done via an automation or a person, and so forth. But if you don't want that on there, we can simply go to properties and go to customize, go to properties, take off show built-in fields, and now at the bottom, it's just nice and clean. By the same token, you notice we don't have a, if we're in edit mode, we're in edit mode. Down at the bottom, we've got save and close. I may want other buttons down here. I may want to expose buttons that say go to a different form or submit or do a different type of action. And these might kind of be in the way. So I am able to turn those off by going to customize this form and going to properties and unchecking the box, show save and close and cancel at the end of this form. Okay. Allow field labels to wrap. I honestly, in 20 years, don't know that I've used that. And it's just if if you've got some long label that you don't want to wrap down to the next line, if you're on a mobile or condensed form, you can click that. Show, save, and keep working. That is not checked by default. And what that is normally, save and close, or if you're adding a record, save and next. But there again, while we're developing, while we're building these apps, I may want to put in some information here and keep it in edit mode. So save and keep working is something I can do. Or if you've got a workflow that it's just helpful to enter some information, save it, and keep it in edit mode so you can keep editing that information. I'm going to show save and keep working choice. And that way when I save and I'm in edit mode, now I've got a choice here and I can save and keep working. And if I make a change here, I click save and keep working and it's still in edit mode. It's just kind of helpful, especially when you're testing. A couple more things on properties. One is, this is purely for performance, and again, I've never changed this. When there are embedded forms on the reports, you want the report to load separately. You want to see your data first. If you've got a really long report on there with a lot of child data, it may take too long if you wait for the whole thing to load at once. So I'd suggest leaving it there. The last thing is, when new fields are created in the customer table, automatically add them to the bottom of this form. That's great when you're first creating your tables and adding your fields. As you get into development mode later on and you start adding more and more fields one at a time or a few at a time, it kind of gets annoying when they keep, you go into your form, you want to place those near the top or something, and where are those fields I just created? After I get to a certain point, after my core form is built, I want to go in normally and say, when new fields are created in this table, do nothing. I'll add them manually. You can also say ask, and then you can choose, and then you can pick which forms they're on. But for me, I just like to say nothing. When new ones are added, then I can go through and add them as I want to. Because there again, if you've got, it'll add them to the bottom of your admin section. It'll put them at the end. If you've got tabs, it'll put them in the very last tab. So there again, make it manual. The last thing I want to point out, and somebody, who was it? Somebody on questions and answers asked this. You notice here it says customer number 500. That doesn't mean a thing to me, right? We can change this. We can change this to represent any field that is in here actually. And if we want to say the customer's name, we can have it say anything we like. I've actually created a special field here. Let's go over to sales reps because I know it's set up there. Nope. So in sales reps, somebody did notice that when you're in a record for sales reps, instead of saying sales rep number 235, it says not only Lillian Kennedy, her name, but it says Lillian Kennedy is active. It's got her name plus her status. What I did was I created another field. I created a concatenation field. Let me add it here. I can add a field right there in my admin section. And I created a concatenation field where I concatenated the sales rep name plus status. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my field or in my admin section for now, just so I know it's there. So let's do that in customers. We want our customer name and possibly status to show up. And this is the one control that's not in, it's not in the actual form customization properties. What we're going to do here is go out to our table settings. This is the one form setting that's out in table settings. And we go to advanced. And about halfway down, the record title. The record title displays the top of all forms for this table to identify the record. Right now it's set to the record ID. Remember, customer number 500? Let's change that. And we could have it full name, but I think I made a concatenation. I did, concatenate name plus status. Let's save that. Go back to, there you go, Heidi Jones qualified. Now that does it for all forms. No matter if I jump over to my second form, my third form, that's all the way across. That's why it's out in the table settings. And that's it for properties.
Great.
Back to you, Neil.
Thanks, Bob. The final stretch here that we're going to get into are dynamic form rules. And this is where you really can kind of breathe some life into your forms because they dynamically update in real time. So, we've covered the ability to make more than one form for a table and assign those to various roles in an application. But there might be some scenarios where not only would you wish to have different forms and different kinds of users, but you might have different situations for the forms to behave differently. So our dynamic form rules in QuickBase will allow you to create forms that behave differently based on specific conditions. This is similar to like automations and pipelines in QuickBase. You set a condition to tell QuickBase what action or set of actions to perform, and that happens live while you're editing a form. When you write a form rule, you specify a condition that triggers as well as the action that occurs after that rule is triggered. A few things that we'd like to cover here. We have some pretty common use case examples that Bob's going to dive into. Some common use cases for form rules are data validation. You're actually able to prevent someone from actually saving a record should there be a discrepancy in data. One example being maybe a start date field is actually inputted to be a date after an end date, and that would be bad data, so you wouldn't want to allow someone to actually save that record. You're able to log fields using form rules, and you can dynamically fill in the value of one field based on the selection of another. So those are just some common examples of when these come in handy. And let me just cover a couple things where form rules may cause some issues for you. So some caveats when working with dynamic form rules. Keep in mind that these form rules that you create are only specifically applied to that form you are configuring them for. So if you like the way one behaves for one form and you think it would be helpful for other roles while working on that same table, you're going to need to apply those to those other forms as well. They only work on a form by form basis, so record by record, so they won't trigger in grid edit. And also keep in mind that your form rules can very well conflict with each other. You'll notice when you go to the form rules tab and customize this form, which Bob is going to show us in just a moment, they are numbered, starting with 1, and they go down the list, and you can move them around. And the reason for that is that form rules do have a hierarchy. So the number 1 form rule will always trump the other ones. And that's just how QuickBase thinks through the logic of the form rules. So sometimes it's just a matter of rearranging your form rules so the most important form rules trigger prior to some of like the secondary ones. So with that, let's go ahead and try it out, Bob.
All righty. I've got a couple form rules set up. Let's go to sales rep number 3. By the way, somebody I saw on Q&A asked a question, how do you keep the data consistent from form to form? The data is contained in the table. The form is just a representation of it. So every form, the form is just a display of the data. So if I change, for instance, I'm on form number 2 now. I'm on form ID number 2. I'm going to edit this and change the status from active to inactive. Save and close. And it's inactive here now on this form. It's inactive on form number 2. So all the way through. Hope that answers that question. So dynamic form rules, I want to go over to my third form, and there's one of them right there. I've got a dynamic form rule that says, if the sales rep is inactive, display this big warning banner here because I don't want to assign any customers to them. So this is just, instead of this little tiny inactive, it says that. Also, I've got, as you've seen on all my forms, I always put an admin section on, and I can hide that. So there again, if I go up and test as a role, I'm an admin, but if somebody else in a participant role is looking at this, they see my warning here that, hey, oh, the admin, I need to hide that. I'm testing as a participant, but I can still see my admin tab. I've got to end my test and go fix that. So again, let's go out to customize this form. I go to customize this form, and I go to my dynamic form rules, and I had a role set up, a rule set up that said, when the user is in the role administrator show, I had a section set up, and I deleted that section. I changed it into a tab. Now I have a rule warning. Nothing's happening here. They don't know what to do. So I need to change this and say, when the user is an admin, I want to show the admin tab. Otherwise, when the user is not in the admin role, hide the admin tab. Let's go check it out. I'm an admin. I can still see it. When I go to test myself as a role participant, there we go. Should be gone. It's gone. So participants, nobody else is going to see that except for admins. A couple other form rules. I'm going to jump down to the third one because that one was glaring when we opened it up. When the status is equal to inactive, show, I have a field that I created called status inactive. And that is a rich text field that just, so that way I could put some HTML with big red letters that says, do not assign this. So you'll see again, when it says status is equal to inactive, show that field. Otherwise, when status is not equal, hide that field. And I've put that field in the middle of the form too. And when I'm not showing it, I also want to collapse that space. We don't want a bunch of white space in the middle of the form. We don't even want people to know that field's there. I have another rule. When specialty, and this is a cool one. This is like conditional formatting. So if I'm editing this form, again, I'm going to cheat and go to change my edit up there. You'll notice our sales rep here, Lillian Kennedy, her specialty is forms. If it's reports, dashboards, something else, what if it's something like pipelines? Pipelines is kind of new. We haven't had much call for that. Well, pipelines isn't on the list, so let's choose other. It could be, automations could be other things. When I choose other, you see this other field popped up. If I choose forms, it's not there. If I choose other, it's there. And now I can type in pipelines and save it. And back on the third form. We'll see the other field is there. The way we did that one is, again, customize, dynamic form rules. And we said when specialty is equal to other, then we want to show the specialty other field. Otherwise, if it's not equal, hide it. And when we hide it, collapse it, we may want other fields in its place if we're stacking a bunch of fields on one line. And lots of neat things you can do with dynamic form rules. Be careful with them. I've seen customers put in so many different form rules that sometimes it just makes sense to make a different form. Where, for instance, it said if a salesperson is in there and their status is new, don't show all these tabs, but show all these, and then all these different variations. Sometimes it's just easier to make a different form.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Bob, too. It is a preference up to you as a builder. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to manage something. So you're either going to manage multiple forms, or you are going to be spending a lot of time in one form managing your form rules. So anytime a new role is introduced to your app, or anytime a new workflow or a new field, you're going to have to review those form rules and constantly configure them. So it really is a matter of preference. Obviously, form rules themselves allow you to manipulate a form without having to have multiple forms, but in a lot of cases, we see a lot of value added by having a whole slew of forms with fairly simple form rules applied.
I just saw something on Q&A. It's a short question, so it's easy to digest it quickly. Chris asked, how do the forms, what's the best way to prioritize them? Yes, they go top to bottom. So if you've got conflicting form rules, the last one on the list will take precedence. And if you put in a conflicting form rule, for instance, let's add a new one that says, when status is not equal to inactive, show that. And I'm not gonna, I've got a form rule warning up there. And it's gonna tell me rules number 2 and 4 are both show and hide on the same field. Only the last highest number of these rules will have any effect. Consider these into multiple combinations. And sometimes you'll do that, and that's more advanced, where you'll say, you may have mutually exclusive conditions, and you need to put those into separate rules. Now, again, you can move these around by, I can move this up to reorder it. I can move it down. I can delete it, but rather than deleting, a lot of times what I'll do if you're testing mode, because sometimes these are complex to set up, rather than deleting, you can just disable it. And then go out and do some of your trial and error testing, and you can come back and either enable it, you can delete it. If you've got a complex one, you can even copy it and go down and just change, some of the different aspects of it. So you can disable all, lots of different things you can do there. But I'm gonna actually get rid of both of those. That's it on form rules.
Great. Thanks, Bob. All right, so we're doing pretty good on time here. So I'm just going to quickly recap our session thus far. Just let you guys know about some resources going forward beyond Empower this week, and then we can open up for some Q&A. And if we can, we'll do our best to get to some additional tips and tricks, or just kind of have an open discussion as to whatever you guys would like to talk about. You will notice in the webinar chat, Jen has shared a survey. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this so we can make it even better for the next time. Definitely appreciate you guys all taking the time to join us today. But just to kind of recap the session, we covered the 3 parts: form elements, form properties, dynamic form rule. What I really would like you guys to take away from today is thinking about forms of making it a great experience for the end user themselves equals great adoption. So people want to use your apps, work in them every day, and use them correctly. I think you'll come to find, if you don't utilize these functions and features of customizing forms, your forms are going to start to look like a CVS receipt. And just like I don't want a CVS receipt when I check out of that store, your end users aren't going to want to use them. So they can be very powerful and really helpful when you're introducing new technology to people at your workplace. So again, there is a session survey. We'd love for you to hear from you guys. And Bob, let's just go over to this want to learn more, available resources. Our online help guide is very comprehensive. It covers all these topics in depth. We also have our care team. If you look at the question mark at the top right-hand corner of your screen, when you are logged into QuickBase, you can click on Manage Support Cases and work directly with an individual on our support team. They're very well versed in the product. Their turnaround time to contact you is very quick, and they're friendly people. I'm friends with a lot of them. Also, QuickBase University, not only will this content be recorded and shared to that portion of our platform, there's a whole bunch of video content with audio that you can learn at your own pace and visit this stuff whenever you want a refresher or just learn new things about QuickBase. It's everything from fundamentals to advanced. So with that, Bob, let's go ahead and start taking a look at some of the questions that were left unanswered in the Q&A. And we can dive in here and do our best in the next, looks like we got 19 minutes left on the clock, so I think we'll be able to chat about a few of the things here.
Okay, so 20 questions answered. Thank you. Everyone's working on that. Let's see. I see one that, I'll take this one live. Multiple form rules. Does the rule at the top take priority or the rule at the bottom? Just covered that. The rule at the bottom takes priority. It goes through them in order, so you can reorder them. It's actually better to have no conflicts, though, and work out different non-conflicting rules to take care of that. Can you post it?
Just another thing to add to that, Bob. Bob showed off the enable and disable form rules feature. When you are troubleshooting why not all your form rules are working, disabling all of them and then enabling them one at a time can help narrow down, particularly when you have like a lot of form rules applied to one form. Kind of like a process of elimination to identify where the problem actually is occurring.
Can you post the text properties from the earlier form? Let me do that. I think what you're talking about, let's see, that's Ryan. I think what you're talking about there is on customers form number, or sales reps form number 2. I don't think these made it into the sample app, is that right? So I've got office info and then company website. Let me see if I can go to, see if I can go out. Yep, all right. Can I put this in chat?
Yeah, go ahead and throw that in the webinar chat, Bob.
All right, so there again, if you can see my screen, I just copied this formula out. You'll need to check the HTML box. And that's now in the formula screen. And then I've got a button also. It's got some, it's actually got a redirect in it, an href in it. So I'll copy that one out as well. Hey, I want to give some credit here while I'm here to give some credit to my friend Sharon Faust at QuickBase Junkie. That's actually where I got the tips from these buttons. She's got a really cool side business doing consulting, and she sends out a lot of free tips once in a while. And some of those are like cheat sheets with HTML and buttons and things like that you can do. Let's see. Certain criteria or philosophy to choose when using forms versus permissions, form rules versus permissions. I guess it's a matter on volume and complexity there. So where's your pain point? At some point, I've seen forms that are so complex that it's even hard for the builder to go back and decipher what's going to happen or where those fields are and why they're not showing up. So at some point, you will you'll realize when you need different forms for different roles. Several forms for a different table, you may want to toggle between forms. How do you do that? That's what I'm doing. Place the additional forms right on the form. Yes, you can do that. That's from Stanley. I put these in the admin section just so I can bounce around, but I've got customers who will put a form for a specific purpose. They may have a table. There's actually tables with thousands and thousands of fields. They may have some of those fields on one form and some on another. And these, there again, you can find help. Magic buttons. If you haven't seen Magic Buttons, that is a great app in the Exchange to pull down. And there's lots of button building tips in there. Let's see, what else? Multiple conditions versus doing plus. What's this? How the rules fire when selector. I didn't quite understand that question. Trial and error sometimes on those. There again, the last rule is the one that takes. It's going to that's going to rule. The last rule rules, right? It requires a block to be filled out for it can access to the rest of the fields. Yes. However, on the iPhone app, that's skipped. Yeah, the mobile, by the way, is some of the rules work and some don't. I think most of them do. Mobile's getting there. I know on the offline mobile that was just released, the form rules don't apply to there. One other thing, while I've got you all on here, that's really cool for builders. If I go to test this as another role, like a participant, check this out. All right, this is what a participant sees. And over here on the right side, can you see the upper right side of my screen? I've got a little mobile symbol. That's what they see on the phone. And you can see it for a phone, medium, or a tablet. Now you can't interact with here. You can't click buttons on here, but as you click over here, you can see different ones. Let me see. Where'd my admins? Oh, I don't see my admin because I'm testing as a participant. So anyway, you get the idea. As you change things over here, you can see the effect and what it's going to look like on the mobile device.
Just saw someone ask the panelists in the chat, looking for updating the UI for forms and dynamic rules. Joshua, you posted that question. I can tell you, I don't have a specific ETA date in mind. I know that this year our priority and focus is reports and dashboards, but 2021, you can definitely expect to see some updates coming down the roadmap regarding the UI of forms and starting for us to start visiting the form builder itself. So I hope that helps your question. All right, we got about 10 minutes left on the clock. What else can we tackle?
Let's see, nesting capabilities. You can do, Hector asked about nesting capabilities and dynamic rules. And you can do things like multiple conditions, when multiple conditions are true, but like on the reports, you can't actually nest them and say if this is true but not these and only these subsets. So it's kind of basic with that. Did it cover role permissions for forms? Just at a high level. Okay, thank you, Marissa.
Just real quick here as well, guys. Anything you feel got skipped over or missed or wasn't efficiently answered by us today, go ahead and open a support case. You can reference that you were at this session and wanted some more information. We all know each other over at QuickBase, so they can get in contact with myself or Bob and get you more information on that. We'd be happy to discuss this further offline with you.
Yep, they will definitely reach out. Let them know you worked with us, and if you need more information, happy to help out there. What else? What else? How do you enforce form rules on a report? I'm not sure I understand that. You can choose to show a report or not. You can say if certain conditions are met, display this field, which could be a report, but form rules don't live within reports themselves. Form rules are specific only to that particular form even.
Yeah, so and if you were displaying related records on your form, that would be, you'd be drilling down into another form, likely from another table, and then the form rules would live there. That makes sense.
Samuel, great question. When I use tabs on a large form, it tends to take me back to the first tab every time the page refreshes. Yes, that is the behavior, what it does. And I don't know a way without using JavaScript, which we don't recommend, to keep you on that tab, like if you edit and save and go back. Oh, Molly answered that one. Data validation instead of form rules for the report. That's different. So I can put on this report, I can say, let me exit. So I can say, for instance, you can't put a date in the future. I could say that, but then again, that's only valid on this form. I'd have to create that rule on every single form. If that's an issue and you're also doing things through reports or grid edits, that's a different function. I'll show you where it is. I can't dig into it because it's not part of the section. But for instance, you would go out to the advanced settings, and there is a custom data rule for this table. You turn that on, you can find out more help there. Maybe it may even be a session on that, I'm not sure. But you can say if you can't put a future date into a certain field, for instance. Is a status bar created a form element? It's just something we created in HTML, that customer status bar, that is a rich text formula field. And that is part of the app, the sample app. There again, this is just a field that's on the form. This field's called status banner, and it's a rich text formula field. That evaluates my status and does HTML things to make it look cool. How did I get all the information on the stats table? Well, through a relationship. So I created one stat table, or one record in the stats table, and all customers and all sales reps are related to that stat table, so everything rolls up. Can verification of a data field be performed as the field is being populated to notify the user data entry is already in the table? That's for it, and then tell us a duplicate. I wouldn't know how it knew it was a duplicate until you tried to save it. I don't think you can do it. This is Alan's question at 1041. I don't think you can. I don't think it will tell you at the field level when you try to exit the field that another record already contains that. Thinking through, I don't believe so. You need to try to save it. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Like when you got to customize one of dynamic form rules, add a new rule, you can say when the record is saved, change, we could even add a condition to say when the record is saved and let's do something else. Email is equal to blank. Abort save and say, I want to display a message too that says, why no email? So if I try to add a record and save it, record not saved, email is blank. Why no email? Another thing you can do. Recap the tab section. How do you make them look so slick? Wow. They just look slick. And tabs are cool. Don't make them look slick, they just are. You just line them up. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Maybe just show them how to customize the color on one, Bob.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. And I've seen people kind of go off with the colors and make each one a different color and they're all neon and all that. That can be distracting also. You know, mine are simple. They're all just gray except for the last one on admin is I changed it to red. Maybe sales stats, you can set the tab color. What I like to do, if you've got a lot of tabs, let's say you've got 10 or 12 tabs, and you've seen this for like sales proposals, 10 or 12 tabs, you might arrange them by color code. Like the first 3 may be customer information, and those are light blue, and the next ones are financial information, and those are green. You know, just kind of keeping like sets of data color coordinated. So to set the color, you just, you can grab the base color here, pull your slider in, whatever you like. You can also go out to HTML and find color codes that you like, and you can cut and paste one of those in there. So you see when I save that, now my tab is blue.
Yeah, Bob, I think we're almost out of time here, so maybe we can cover one more question, and then we'll call it quits for today. But like I said, open up a care case. If any of you guys are assigned to me with your as me or as your CSM, go ahead and send me an email. Happy to chat about this further.
Buttons that refer to, so these different buttons that we use to bounce around to the different forms, these are formula URL buttons. And there again, download the Magic Buttons app. Go to the Exchange, download the Magic Buttons app. There's so many cool things in there that will tell you for any situation you think of, how do you create a button to do this? And you just change it to put in your own information. Got that one. And to go to a specific form, there again, let's go look at our forms in the settings. There again, I went to settings, out here to the forms, and I've got 3 forms created. I can see their names, I can see their form ID that I can use in a URL. I can see a preview. What does this form look like? And what does it look like in edit mode versus, viewing, et cetera, One thing we can do is say, you know what, for participants, let's say it's salespeople, when they're adding a record, I want them to use, something special when they're adding one. But let's see, so Stanley's question, how can it ask you which form you want to go to? No, but you can specify it based on role and what you want to do with the form. You're just going to view, edit, add. And there again, you can create mobile specific forms.
Great. Bob, I think we're out of time for today. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. I'm going to shamelessly share our feedback survey in the chat. Please send us your feedback. This is how we learn to make things better for you next time. This was great. Really happy with the turnout of all the participants. And like I said, don't be strangers. We'll always be around.
Great. Thanks, everybody.